of his eye. Sit right down, we're gonna give the scoop with Ryan Pfeiffer and Lisa Dupe. Shamma-lamma ding-dong loop-de-loop. This is the story of a guy named Mr. Boop.
You're listening to Being Mr. Boop. One of them's a genius, and the other one's a boop. You see, I wrote this one during episode 196, because we go the one of them's a genius and the other one's insane tagline. We got the one of them's a genius and the other one's insane tagline, and I was disappointed to find out I didn't even put a boop reference in it. So I added this one, which is essentially the same, except I put the other one's a boop at the end instead of the other one's insane. This one is also bad. It also just occurred to me that people may not understand that it's a reference to the theme song to Pinky and the Brain, which it is. My name is Ryan Pfeiffer, and I am Mr. Boop.
My name is Lisa Loop, and I am Mr. Boop.
And this is where you introduce yourself, Cheryl.
And you are?
And I am Cheryl Conquo, also known as Sneed Comet Online. And am I also a boop?
Yes.
Yes, you are also
You
Mr.
are officially
Boop.
Mr. Boop
Nice. Very nice.
now. So, it's Friday, December 11th. Is this... No, you didn't... Okay. It's Monday, December 14th.
14th.
This 2020, during the 207th ever Mr. Boop strip. What happens in today's Mr. Boop?
In today's Mr. Boop... Shit, I fucked up the whole spreadsheet. Give me a second. In today's Mr. Boop, questions and answers. But first, let's talk about our guest.
Yes, I forgot the thing that... I forgot the way that... There's like the way we say it, right? But I forgot. It's like it only... Because at the end of the week, say it only remains for us to... But what do they say at the beginning again?
I don't remember.
I don't remember. We're 200 episodes in, I don't remember.
Well...
What, Cheryl, what is your... Who are you? And what is your experience with Mr. Boop and or being Mr. Boop?
Right. Okay. That is a... Yeah, so my experience... Who am I? So sorry. Okay. Who am I? I am a person on the internet who likes to... Very recently likes to make videos on things that I find to be pretty niche or really silly or interesting. And I made a video about Mr. Boop back in February of this year, 2022. But I've actually been reading since March of 2020. So about a month in to when the comics started. And I was hooked immediately. I don't even remember what strip it was exactly, but I was just like, this speaks to this silly concept speaks to something in me, and I need to read it, and I need to annoy all of my friends about this as well. So I've been reading since then, and I've been a big boop head since about March of 2020.
That's what they call them.
Yeah. A boop head sounds like something you should get checked out by a doctor. I don't know. So that's
we should be checked out by a doctor.
Yeah, for doing all this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you made a video about Mr. Boop?
Yes, it's called The Mayhem and Metafiction of Mr. Boop, where I try to dive into the themes and just the psyche of who Alec Boop is, and what this comic, outside of having really interesting relations with a copyrighted cartoon character, what does that mean from an audience standpoint and from a storytelling standpoint. And I think I was inspired. I think really the entire reason why I started a YouTube channel was so that I could develop the skills to be able to talk about this comic in the way that justified the entertainment that I got from it.
Wow. Well, I'm gonna have to check that out eventually. I would have watched it already, but I don't want to. I'm trying to go into it I don't want to be I guess influenced by outside opinions necessarily, maybe, but I am interested in watching this. I'll definitely check that out. Maybe when the podcast is over, which will happen soon. Lisa has seen it.
Yeah, that was because our regular guest host, Sophia the Mysterious, recommended me the video and said you should get this person onto the podcast.
Listeners, you're definitely going to want to check out this video for we try to analyze Mr. Boop to the best of our abilities here, I suppose. But we don't put that sort of time and thought into it. It's all pretty much just you hear everything. You hear our entire thought process on the podcast.
This week I was considering making notes about the boop ahead of time, because I was like, you know what, maybe I should go ahead and do some pre-analysis. But I was like, it's not worth it.
And have you listened to any episodes of this podcast before?
No, it's like I knew that it was there, but while I was doing like the research for the Mr. Boop video, like I had seen it, but I hadn't made the time to actually listen to it, which is like big on me. Like I'm like, but I think I was so focused on like sticking to I think in a similar way, like I was so focused on sticking to like the text of Mr. Boop that I didn't want it to, like I wanted to like see what I could on my own to sort of like figure out. From
I guess that's kind of what I was thinking about.
Yeah, your video really inspired me to start thinking about Mr. Boop on a deeper level.
Well, it's good one of us is.
Yeah, exactly. Because I have a tendency to space out quite a lot. And during the first like couple of seasons, maybe 2 or 3, I was just like spaced
That's the
out
entire show, Lisa.
Yeah. But then when I saw it, I was like, hey, wait a second, there's something to analyze. And then I just got interested in.
I mean, it's a weird comic. It gets
weird,
pretty weird. It's pretty weird right now.
I mean, I was always excited to get to the final book, because this is where the juicy stuff is.
I suppose
that's where it becomes.
I feel like at this point it's become the hardest to analyze. It's just like who even knows what is real, or I don't know. And maybe the layers that make it harder to actually detect what's really going on is like it's a part of it. Okay, well, let's get into it. Today's strip, you did not say what happens, but what happens is questions, electries, and answers. What's an electries? I don't know.
Yes.
Who said that?
Also, we forgive you for not having heard the show. No one has.
Oh, yeah.
And it would not have helped you.
No, definitely not. Well, 4 panels, as always. Mr. Boop, not Mr. Boop. I don't know why I have to keep telling you guys this. It's Mr. Boop now. It's not Mr. Boop anymore. Betty and Alec are laying in bed on pillows. Yes. They each have their own pillow. And the blanket is brought up just enough to cover their what is it called? Modesty.
Bodies.
Is that what they cover their modesty? That's an expression, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
And they got their little, their hands over the edge as they do. Betty on the,
as is tradition.
Betty on the left, Alec on the right, and they're positioned so that they're the same.
Here
height.
I am.
Alec is really far up in the bed. And they're both sweating as if they were just doing something in the bed. Who knows what that could be?
I have some ideas.
They're taking up the bottom half of the panel. And on the top half is some speech bubbles. Betty says, am I Electries? Am I actually Betty Boop? Electral Heart. That's what we call them.
We pretty early on in the show we decided to say things instead of regular punctuation.
Yes, I mean, because this is just as much as this is a Mr. Boop podcast. This is a quasi spinoff of Being Jim Davis,
a style parody. As
a style, I don't know about that, but and they have all their made up shit that they say. So now we do too. And we don't even notice anymore when we say it. What does Alex say?
Alex says, huh? And free, what's that, electoral?
Yes, there's 3 electoral hearts floating above his head. There's also an electoral heart after, huh?
Liz is really coming to this realization now. Well, I don't know. We keep on having this.
Yeah, you keep calling her Liz.
I keep calling
her
Liz.
Now that question is really being posited because had just taken it as, okay, well now we're back to this is just Betty Boop because he's sunken sunken into his fantasy to where he just thinks he's married to Betty Boop again, because that is literally what he said. But she's questioning it, so maybe it's not. I don't know. Yeah. I don't even know what to make of this question now. Is she actually Betty Boop? Yeah.
It's been a while since either of us have read through all of Mr. Boop.
Right.
Well, I mean, yeah, I skimmed it when I got the hardcover version, so I skimmed through that.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a little better knowledge of what's to come. But for him,
I mean, I've read it. I mean, it's just been a while. It's just been since it ended. Betty looks worried in this panel. Alec looks like, huh? What? Huh? Because that's what he's saying. Huh?
What do you think about this, Cheryl? Do you think that this is still Liz, or is this?
Oh, this is definitely still Liz. Because I had also I had made that video back in February, but it had been about a year since I had read it after it ended. Mm-hmm. So this is definitely still Liz being forced into, like, I think that what this is trying to get to a before, like at the start of the comic, where like he is married to Betty Boop. But what he's married to now is, I think it's a really like kind of profound question. Like, am I actually Betty Boop? Like, she, at this point, Liz has changed her name, has changed her appearance, has changed her identity to be Betty Boop. So for all accounts, like, she is Betty Boop. But is she the same Betty Boop that's from like the very first strip? That's quite like the existential question. Like, yes, she is Betty Boop, but is she that Betty Boop? You know,
it's like the ship of Boopus.
It's like, is it still the same? Is it still the same ship, even if everything has been changed? Yeah.
Well, the first Betty Boop was the real Betty Boop, but she wasn't real. But this Betty Boop seems equally not real. So in that sense, I guess she would be the same Betty Boop. She did turn from Liz, but what I took that as is like, I feel like once they did the first strip again for strip 200, I was like, well, this is not even really continued from the Liz thing anymore. Like, it is, but it isn't anymore. Like, it's because it's a reboot. Decided. That's not so much decided. The next strip, the following strip, he said he was married to Betty Boop, and they treated it as if he was married to the famous Betty Boop and not Liz, who just happened to be named and looked like Betty Boop.
I think this is post, like, in that, like, in the first, like, strip, in the first volume, that is completely, like, all of it really is completely Alec's imagination and delusion, right? But, like, I think once the cracks start forming, it's, what is it, like, that sort of, like, pottery thing, where they, like, when like, a bowl breaks and, like, they fix it with, like, the gold, right? I mean, it's not like that at all, really, but it's, like, it's not the same. Like, even if you try to fix it with, like, different, it's not the same as the way that it used to be, because now there's a part of Alec represented through Liz, I think, that is sort of breaking through that reality.
We on this show we get caught up a lot on the idea that he is creating the comic, like within the fiction he's creating what we see, and so we get really hung up on that idea, like how, I don't know, how is Liz breaking through if this is exactly what he's showing us?
I think it's a subconscious thing. Yeah. I think it could be. If I'm taking it from because I like to read it from not Alec Robbins, the actual person, but Alec Robbins, the creator, or Alec Robbins, the person who believes that he is married to Mr. Boop, right? Where this is a sort of stream of consciousness type of, it is a reflection, though he doesn't even know it, but it's like a reflection of a psyche that is I think the sort of like overall thesis, I think, of like my video of like this version of Alec Boop, where this story is a sort of protective barrier from life and reality. And I'm trying to get back to the original point. I'm like trying to think about but I think that it is just, from that character's perspective, it's just like a diary of sorts, right?
Yeah, I feel like it can be difficult to draw the line between Alec the character and Alec the actual person writing the strip, because Alec the character is also writing the strip, and then Alec the actual person is writing like about the strip when he posts it to Patreon and sometimes to Twitter. And it's sort of in character, sort of not. Sometimes, depending on which like thing, that doesn't really affect the strip at all, but it does like give it another layer of like weird, like where do you draw the line? I guess
literature, yeah.
I feel like the idea that it's stream of consciousness has made a little bit of this click a little more for me. Like, because I was like imagining the intent of someone doing this, but if it's just Alec the character just like strolling what happens to him or what he remembers, that I feel like that makes more sense.
Remember that movie Slipstream?
No.
All right, panel 2.
Panel 2.
Close up of Alec.
Hashtag stripstream.
Hashtag panel 2. It's Alec on his pillow, still sweating. Maybe nervously now, because he looks nervous in this panel. He looks, his eyebrows are inverted in nervousness, and he's grimacing a little bit. What does his speech bubble say?
You can read it, Cheryl.
Yeah, either one of you.
Cool. Of course you are. Why are you questioning it?
It'll be seamless in post.
Yeah. Ooh. Now you got to make it seamless in post because you said that.
But it's gonna be weird that I said that because it will be seamless. But then afterwards, I'll say it'll be seamless in post, and it's like, well, why did he say that? It was just there was a cut there. I didn't even notice because it was so seamless in post.
Because Ryan's such a great editor.
And there's an electoral heart after it says questioning it.
Oh, okay.
He's questioning it more like electoral hearting it. Because yeah.
Should I redo it while saying electro heart?
No, you don't have to.
Okay.
He's sort of confronting the element of his psyche that's coming through from.
Why is she questioning it? She's Betty Boop. What? Lay off.
Obviously, she's Betty Boop. She looks like Betty Boop.
Lay off. It's Betty Boop. What?
Careful, man. Yo, that's Betty.
Yeah. It's.
We're on a first name basis.
Yeah. Panel 3 reverse shot of Betty, and she's smiling now. What? Alec was nervous. Now she's smiling as if nothing's wrong. But she's still sweating though, because I guess not because she's nervous, just because she's worked up a sweat. And she has a speech bubble that says, "Sorry, electro point. I'm not sure what came over me. Of course I'm Betty Boop. 2 electro points."
Wow.
See, it's electoral heart, but electro point. Okay, sorry.
So,
we don't have to explain
so
it. You can just buy the shirt, the Slang God shirt.
Yeah, we have a T-shirt that has an explanation of what all of the slang is.
It's the only way to understand. We forgot to censor the design on the shirt on the site.
Anyway, I guess he's sort of revising the mistake in letting that part of his psyche start.
Yeah.
She's
sure.
like,
what does this remind me of?
No, it's all good.
I think it might remind me of Westworld again.
I've never.
Joe, have you seen Westworld?
I haven't seen Westworld.
No, I haven't.
It's pretty good. I just finished season 1. It's pretty good.
I know. I hear good things.
I think it does remind me of Westworld. Like when they. So sometimes the robots will like maybe like notice a thing, or I think so. Most of the time when one of the robots like if like someone mentioned or tried to show them a picture of something in the real world, they'd be like, "Doesn't look like anything to me." That's what they say every time. Like, doesn't look like anything to me. But sometimes if they do kind of like break through a little bit, and they're like, "Huh, what are you talking about?" They're like, "Oh, haha, nothing. I don't even know. I don't even remember that I just said that." So that's kind of what this reminds me of, I guess.
I too heard good things about Westworld 5 years ago.
Yeah, I'm pretty late. I finally finished Beyond Westworld, which was a show in the 70s that got canceled after like 5 episodes. It's really bad.
Did you watch the movie?
I did. I watched the movies first, Westworld and Future World, and then Beyond Westworld kind of takes after Future World a bit more, I think. Future World's okay. Beyond Westworld is not good. It's like a procedural, like, cop show almost from the 70s where like, we gotta find the Westworld robot that's rogue in like this concert or this racing event or the military here. We gotta find the robot that is being controlled by Quaid, is the big bad guy that controls all the robots.
It was nominated for 2 Emmys.
Beyond Westworld?
Yeah, Beyond Westworld.
It got canceled though.
Yeah, but it was nominated.
I think Michael Crichton was heavily involved. He's the creator of Westworld and Jurassic Park.
Yes.
See, this is another feature of this podcast, is that we just start talking about something else that has nothing to do with it.
Another feature is that we explain the podcast to any guests we have.
Exactly. Okay, panel 4. What happens in panel 4?
What does happen in panel 4?
That's what I'm asking you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's the same shot from panel 1. We're back to the flapper shot. That's another piece of slang. Okay. They both look pleased. Everything's back to normal. Betty is blushing and smiling with her eyes closed, and Alec is doing the classic wife face.
That's his wife, Betty Boop.
That's similar to what he's thinking. Betty says, "I married you and legally changed my name to Betty Boop." Betty Boop is in quotes. And Alec has a thought bubble. What does his think-a-log read?
That's my... No, you go.
Oh, sorry. That's my wife, Betty Boop.
That's true. That's who she is. Nothing can take that away from him.
Well, that's wife.
Yeah.
Was
I feel like this is
Frank Sinatra.
He's reminding,
that's wife.
He's reminding the Suits reading that this isn't Betty Boop. Remember, they married. Yeah.
He's reminding woman. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's interesting. I didn't think of that point again. Cause I forgot because there was that whole thing that was all of Volume 3 was about that sort of thing, and I guess that's why it has to still be Liz.
Yeah.
For that reason. But it's just weird. I keep coming back to that 201st strip where he's explaining to Bugs and Peter Griffin, who are also copyrighted characters.
Oh yeah, wait a second.
That he's...
I guess Fox and Warner haven't come after him yet.
Well, so yeah, because he's not married to them, so they're like, whatever.
That's interesting how those characters aren't owned by the same company as Betty Boop. Like, I feel like if there were other characters owned by whatever company owns Betty Boop now.
Maybe that's why he hasn't had Popeye in the strip. Oh. The only time they mentioned Popeye was when it was the titular, not titular Mr. Boop was talking about his other cartoons, and they mentioned Popeye, and that's still the only time they mentioned Popeye. Holding out for another Popeye reference. Gotta get that other Popeye reference in there. Come on, fingers crossed.
I think it's different because it's not called like Mr. Popeye's last name or like Mr. Peter Griffin.
I think it would just be Mr. I. Please, Mr. I was my father. Call me Popeye.
Pop was my father's name. They called him Popeye. Poppy Eye.
They called him Poop Deck Pappy. I think that's what they called him. Sorry, I didn't mean to get into my Popeye lore. But that's his name.
Do go on, Cheryl.
Yeah, I think that there's something really like challenging or kind of transgressive in the last panel. That's like, this is after fictional that probably mirrors some like real life legal battle, I think, with like merchandising and things, where it's like after being explicitly told not to do anything else with the Betty Boop brand, and just being like, because it's like tethered to like, this is Betty Boop, but it's not Betty Boop. Like it's this OC named Liz, or it's this real person, but really an OC named Liz. And just kind of circling back in like a way that's like both challenging, but also kind of like Alec Robbins, the character, is not able to let go of this fantasy of being married to Betty. Like, it has become his entire personality. Like, he's completely a wife guy at this point. That
yeah.
if you take away the wife, he's just a guy.
He's nothing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
I
That's-
keep coming back to the idea that this is mirroring or the similarities between this and when fan fiction authors will change the names of their characters, like that 50 Shades of Grey and
Yeah,
that
Yeah,
or the After series of
Yeah.
movies where instead of dating Harry Styles, she's dating Harden Styles or something. Something
Also,
like that.
the Patreon description, or the shadow synopsis as we call it,
Mhm.
reads, "That's my wife, Betty Boop. The classic Mr. Boop catchphrase. Making everybody laugh, like usual."
Well, that's wife. That's what he usually says. He says, what's the thing he said in the? Oh,
I'm married to Betty Boop.
I've got to tell the guys at work about this. That's not his catchphrase.
He said that once, yeah.
Well, he said it twice now, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he said in Strip 200.
Because of 200.
I guess he doesn't really have a one specific way of saying that he's married to Betty Boop. He always says it in a different way. Because he's so high on wife. I didn't really think about the copyright stuff so much since Betty Boop has come back, so to speak. It's I mean, he does the actual Alec Robbins. I don't think has to have any concern about like the legality of this, because it would be covered by like parody, or it should be.
I don't know if did you see the email screenshot? Did you see that, Cheryl? In book 3, there's a in the physical book 3, there's a screenshot of a series of emails he got.
Oh, I
from
forgot
a
about
company
that.
Right, yeah.
claiming to
I guess
be,
that's all posturing
Yeah.
now.
we didn't know whether or not it was real or not. I mean, I think Ryan assumed it was fake, but I
don't remember if I did.
initially. But then I was like, no, I think it. Who knows? Right.
That's the thing, is like I never got a clear answer on that, because when I was going back and reading through the strips, I didn't know if that was real or if it was just.
I think the most we know is that like the merch was taken down, which because that just goes down to like the sellers of the merch more than anything.
But apparently it wasn't because of Betty Boop; it was because of Bugs Bunny.
Oh,
What? I didn't know that.
what about all those gangster Bugs Bunny T-shirts? They're allowed to sell those. Actually, I think those might be.
Those are 100% official.
I was gonna say those might actually be official. Just like that Garfield Tupac hat I owned, that was official too.
Did you read the Verge interview? The interview Alec did with the Verge?
I think so. Yeah, I
not
tried to
Verge.
track
You
down as
mentioned-
much.
It's not
as-
Verge, right? You keep saying
No, it
Verge,
is
but I don't
Verge.
think
I have it
is
up in
Verge?
front of me.
Okay.
I usually say the Verve, but it's
Hmm.
not. He mentions in that there was a scare, so I don't know whether
Right.
that's referring to the email or something more. I assumed it was.
But
referring to the email.
here's what I wanted to say is that like I guess even in the strip, if there was any actual concern, like then the other, I'm not actually sure how to read this. The other, like the first 2 or 3 volumes where it is actually Betty Boop and it's called, they say it's the cartoon character Betty Boop. That those wouldn't be allowed to still be up, but I don't know. Maybe in the world of Mr. Boop, those strips aren't available anymore. I don't know.
I was actually flicking through my physical copy, the hardback, and I realized that there is something that like definitely normally would prevent the book from ever being publishing. Towards the end of the book, there is like screen caps from dozens of copyright material. There's like a photo, there's a printed screenshot from Space Jam in there and Family Guy and shit. So I feel like the copyright isn't something that the publishers are afraid of.
No, yeah, it doesn't seem like it. I keep seeing what's that movie, the People's Joker? I keep seeing stuff about that. That's been having like legal issues, it seems. I don't know why that wouldn't be covered by like parody the same way this is.
I think what it's being prevented from being shown at screenings, being shown at film festivals, which is the big deal with it.
But how? Like, why? I guess just because, like, I would assume it's because they're in the middle of like
Folie et deux.
working out but like they are in the middle of making Joker too, but they're always doing a Joker thing anyway.
They're always doing
there's always something going on with that guy.
That's people in Gotham City looking out their window like, they're doing a Joker thing.
They're doing another Joker thing out there.
I had a running like joke with friends when I had first seen the movie, like in 2019. I was like, this is a movie, but it'd be so much better as a musical. And then I heard like a few months ago that they had Lady Gaga, and I'm like, did they just like take my idea like without...
They did. They did take your idea. This would also be better as a musical too.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we should have done the 200th episode as a musical.
I meant
Mr.
Boop.
Boop, but then as soon as I said it, I changed my mind and I meant being Mr. Boop.
Oh, being okay.
Yeah. But yeah, like, I think maybe the issue would be that like maybe they're being like contacted, like maybe their people are attempting to cease and desist that Joker, that People's Joker movie, whatever, and it's like. They're legally, it's legally sound, like, because of parody law, but they have to prove it first before. So in the meantime, if they do anything, like maybe that would be because like they have to prove it first before they can do that. Otherwise, they'll be in trouble for doing it like before they settle it. Maybe that's what it is. That's my guess anyway.
The thing with copyright law is that it works unless they don't want it to work. I think is in my experience.
I guess
my readings,
Even for, I mean, yeah, I guess you mean just for non-public domain stuff.
Yeah.
Betty Boop is public domain though.
You get shit even with public domain shit. You
Not
get
really.
like what's it called?
I
You get the Conan Doyle family sue every production of Sherlock Holmes and always lose.
What?
Yeah,
Every production.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
No, this comes up every now and again in the news zeitgeist.
Didn't something happen with Enola Holmes?
Yeah. They argue that elements from the revived series of Sherlock Holmes that he wrote after taking a break are still under public domain. No, aren't under public domain, and so they sue any production that they think is using elements from those later books.
Wow.
And that includes like Sherlock Holmes being a little nicer than usual.
Oh,
So
that's
Sherlock
what that
Holmes
was
is
with
nice.
Enola Holmes.
Like,
yeah.
They're like, you can't make a nice Sherlock Holmes.
This is my headcanon, is that Sherlock Holmes is a little nicer. This is... I didn't... That's interesting.
I've never even read.
Just both coming to that same conclusion. That's an interesting argument, but it's also just true that, like, I mean, that is why he would be a little bit nicer. It's just that that's the way they wrote it. It's not based on like him being a little bit nicer in the actual revival.
What can I say?
But that is also an interesting argument to get around that. Like, if they did, I guess like with that new Winnie the Pooh horror movie, whatever, it's like very clearly based on the Disney thing. I guess you could make that same sort of argument where it's like, no, we just also redesigned Winnie the Pooh to be yellow with a red shirt.
Didn't you share someone shared a tweet that was saying like that they think that new Winnie the Pooh is like a smear campaign against the public domain? Like
I think I liked or retweeted a tweet like that. It's like, yeah,
it exists to make people not want characters in the public domain because it looks bad. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it worked for me. That is the type of stuff that makes me not like the public domain as much, I guess. Not like, but like I see that sort of thing and I'm like, that's just automatically what I think people use it for or whatever, I guess. It's like, man, I kind of would prefer just Disney making all their generic Winnie the Pooh shit if this is the alternative.
But I think there has to be space for bad Winnie the Pooh adaptations. I think that. I think
I know
it's important.
I know that that's true, but like, it's just what I think automatically when I see that.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyway, this is an interesting strip, I guess. And it's funny. There's not a lot of straight up funny ones these days, but this one is comedic in nature. I would say.
I'd say I think I'd chuckle at this.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's married to Betty Boop. That's always good for a laugh.
That gets everyone laughing.
Ah,
uh,
that's how I laugh. Cheryl, what do you think of this strip?
I think that this is another one of those like really interesting. Like we're approaching towards the end of the story, and I think it shows that the character of Alec Boop is breaking, or the constructed reality that he's making is breaking, and the fact
breaking down.
Yeah, it's breaking down. The fact that it's even entered into his work shows like how much of a break from that reality is like happening. Like I can.
What do you mean into his work?
Like his comics, right? Like I can only imagine the fictional, like what is going on like outside, what is going on with the like fictional Alec Robbins, like as he's like making these, like is he like making these particular strips like through like tears, or like what, like I can only imagine like that sort of like mental state. Like we're only getting like a fraction of that.
I feel like at this point I'm not even sure how much of a question that is, because it's like I feel like he only exists within the strip at this point.
Yeah, it's a question of, I think we should wrap up this one in a bit. So, but also I think that it's a question of, does Alec, the real life author, want us to consider that Alec, the fictional author, is writing these at this point?
Yeah,
I do have a question. For Cheryl, do you think Liz was ever real?
No, absolutely not. And I feel like by the ending, not to like spoil anything, but I feel like Liz was always made up to me.
Okay.
Like,
Well, I think that I just realized, because Liz first appears in like the end of book 2.
Oh, that's
and
right.
In that, it's clearly like
it's clearly what
that wouldn't be something that Alec had knowledge of if she was a real person.
Yeah.
You know? Like, oh yeah, let's go.
That was cool. That was kind of a weird thing at a time where it was like it kind of went because the way it was framed, it was like pulling back. We pulled back and saw Alec as the author, and it pulled back again, and it sees Liz. So it's like Liz existed because Liz existed like what was it? That was at the end of book 2, right?
Yeah.
Book 2 and I think book 3, right? Oh yeah, it wouldn't have been. Yeah.
And so because Liz existed in the real world, where Alec, the author, still existed in the world of his creation.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess the real world is also a world of his creation. He was stringing us. He was like he was setting up his confession later so that people would believe it, because he was.
Yeah, I think he actually. I was looking at some of the tweets he made contemporary to this, and I don't remember if it was for this one specifically, but he said, "By the way, for anything I write in Mr. Boop, you all already forgave me." Like,
when was this?
I don't remember. It was around December 2020, but I can't remember the exact date.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because he set up that whole thing. Okay, yeah. Well, that's interesting. You've been listening to Being Mr. Boop. Further evidence that Chris and John make it look easy. You can visit the show. That's the Being Davis guys. Also, Chris and Jonathan. You can visit the show's website at www.beingmrboop.com for a full catalog of episodes. And oh no, there's no and anymore. It usually says and to sign up to host the podcast, but you can't anymore. For more updates,
we've run out.
At Mr. Boop Pod on Twitter. I'm at Candyman106 and at Semi-Sweet Stuffs for everything else I make. At Food Eater 98 on Twitter. I only post pictures of my eats.
Yes, I'm Lisa Doop on Bandcamp. I have a new single out, I think. Go give that a listen.
What's it called?
I don't remember. It's a Ween cover.
Oh, which Ween song?
Monoculosis.
So how do you not remember what it was called?
I don't remember what I named the single.
But if it's a cover, wouldn't it just be called the same?
Yeah, but it's an EP of 2 songs, and the EP has a different name to what the single is. But I don't know
Wait.
what the EP is called.
Never mind. I'm not gonna. Okay, whatever. Not the time. Cheryl, what's your channel again?
Yeah, so my channel is just my name, Cheryl Okonkwo. I'm at Neat Comets, on everything else, Twitter, Instagram. I'm working on another video. Actually, when is this scheduled to come out? Actually, when is this episode?
Well, it's scheduled to come out this Monday, but who knows?
Yeah, okay. Well, the video that I'm working on won't come out until like next month, but
Okay.
I am working on something interesting. It's a Disney Channel movie that'll hopefully be out in time for October and Halloween. So
Nice.
for anyone
Check
who's
it out.
interested in that, yeah, it's
And
about,
check out the Mr. Boop video.
Yeah, the mayhem and metafiction of Mr. Boop. I that's one of the videos that I really like looking back on.
Just search Mr. Boop on YouTube. It's one of the first results.
Yeah,
It comes up before this podcast.
I was completely surprised that there was no one else talking about it. Also, I feel like we have to mention that Mr. Boop recently won an award.
Did it?
Best collection.
I didn't.
I think.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
Like,
Yes, I forgot.
I don't know how to pronounce the name of it. Is it Ignatz or something? But it has been
Yeah.
officially recognized.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
One of the other search results for Mr. Boop on YouTube was almost our guest. Well, it was almost our last guest, but they had to cancel last minute. It was the rap battle one.
Yeah, Mr.
Yeah.
Boop rap battle was going to be on
They were
this.
almost going to be a guest.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you and good night.
Thank you and good night. Now we do we do 3 of these.
This podcast was brought to you by the Pitch Drop Podcast Network. Like what you just heard? Support the show by going to patreon.com/pitchdrop. And while you're at it, check out pitchdrop.net for more of this and other shows.